Welcome back to the program, and thank you to everyone who's been sending in your messages about the discussion on the revenue sharing formula that's become a bone of contention within the Senate. I've got an SMS here, someone saying, why don't senators want to discuss the CRA formula, which was impartial? The changes were occasioned by change of data on poverty, population, and revenue, etc. While Fred on Twitter is saying, what is the relevance of further consultation if up to now the Senate has not arrived at one decision? Is it that the Senate has closed their ears to the external voices that have of late been involved in all its business? While a final message from Kip Koech, you are saying on Twitter, if the Senate is unable to create a formula where no county loses money, they should shut the door behind them and go home. Wameshindwa na kazi is what Kip Koech feels tonight. Have they? Well, that's what I want to ask them at this time. We've got Kipchumba Murkomen, Senator, Marakwet County, together with Samson Cherargei, the Senator for Nandi County. Gentlemen, to both of you, thank you for your time and for joining us on Newsnight after a seventh try at finding a way forward on this whole discussion. But Senator Murkomen, let me start with you to understand the logic behind your move to ask for that adjournment, which you got support for. Bearing in mind, just last week, we saw Senator Orengo and others pushing for an adjournment, which I believe you refused or declined at that time or voted against. But today you feel that was the way forward on this, Senator Murkomen. Why?
Over time, thank you first of all for having us here. And I just want to say that wisdom is gathered over time. And after consulting my colleagues, I realized that most of them were tired with this conversation that was going on in the country that talks about the winners and losers. And I felt like I spoke to the senior citizens within the Senate, some of whom have been in Parliament longer than myself. And I realized that most of them were willing for us to come together and hammer a deal that will facilitate a win-win situation. You must appreciate, Waiga, that I was in the Senate in 2016 when we passed a formula that all the 47 senators agreed to. And remember, it took us 1 year to agree on the 47. There was a postponement. We even ended up retaining the old formula for an extra 1 year. And eventually, we went to Naivasha, and you heard Senator Wetangula repeating, because he was the minority leader then, and I was a deputy majority leader. We went to Naivasha, and we had a long consultation that resulted in a formula that 47 of the counties, all the 47 delegations of counties in the Senate voted for. And it was not that there were no counties that lost. In fact, Tarakanidi and many of these other counties lost, but they lost something that was marginal. And Elgeyo Marakwet at that time gained 300 million, and all of us eventually balanced the situation that even those who are losing were willing to live with the decision that we were making. And remember, that decision was facilitated by the fact that we also had negotiated with the national government to increase the allocation that was going to the county the subsequent year. But, we have now a situation where the allocation is the same from last year, and you have a situation where the conversation has been framed so badly. You've had people insulting other parts of the country, saying that there are bushes, there are rocks, we are not allocating money to land, we are allocating to human beings. But that's a lie. Kenya is allocating over 100 billion shillings to its army to protect our land, even the smallest of the inches. In fact, one of the problems we have with Uganda is that we are fighting over a small area called Migingo, because Kenya's land is as important as its people. And the conversation we are beginning to have is a conversation that is unknown to law. If anybody had the kind of discussion you saw that's going on around the country, some people saying that we are not allocating money to land. If we are not allocating money to land, why did we have a military to protect our land and our airspace? So the conversation we should have...
Senator Murkomen, there's a statement you've made that I don't want to allow to leave unchecked. At the very beginning, speaking about a sense of fatigue within the Senate over a discussion that has now become perennially, never-ending, so to speak. But one would say today that 50 million Kenyans are also tired of Senate. Tired of a Senate that can't seem to make up its mind on something as important as the sharing of revenue amongst the counties. Is it fair to tell Kenyans that part of the reason for the motion that you moved today was because of fatigue?
If it was because of fatigue, then I would have said we vote and we go and make a decision. But because we never get tired.
It's your word, Senator.
No, I'm saying that I don't know if you heard. I tried to convince the senators that we should not get tired getting the right decision. I don't think you understood my position. The position I have is that there is no limitation of time in trying to pursue to do the right thing. If a nation has to hold together, we must be able to dialogue. And I like, by the way, Senator Orengo, when he was moving this adjournment last week, had my sympathies and support. Unfortunately, the mood of the House was so volatile. And if you saw the comments of Senator Orengo today and Wetangula, who moved last week, they remain in the same position. In fact, Senator Orengo even went further to say, we want to have a consensus, because those are people, those are men and women who have negotiated for this country at different fronts. And the best thing for us, and especially the young senators like myself and others, is to appreciate that you never get tired looking for ways and means of ensuring that our country holds together and that we find solutions that keeps our nation moving forward and having the right conversation with the right attitude and with the right mind, with an attitude that when eventually we pass the formula we will pass, the country will be able, nobody will go around saying that this community or this region or these senators don't like this part of the country or the other.
Senator, let me ask you this before I bring in Senator Cherargei. To you, Senator Murkomen, what is the bare minimum, now that it seems that you are clearly not for the Senate committee's formula, and I don't know what your thoughts are about the CRA formula, the original one. What is the bare minimum that you and those who hold the same view as you in Senate would want to see for them to agree for that revenue sharing formula to be approved? What's the basics in a nutshell?
One of the reasons why the Senator Sakaja's amendment, which I must give a lot of credit to Senator Sakaja for taking a stand and being ready to lead in the process, because he was leading a team. And for his fortitude and commitment, even amidst a lot of blackmail and harassment. And that formula was trying to say, and Waiga, if the citizens of this country can understand where we are coming from, if the money remains 316 billion, it means that if you were to allocate 316 billion for the next 5 years, Mandera and Wajir will be losing 2 billion every year, so that in 5 years they would have lost 10 billion. And if they lose that 10 billion, it will look as though the gains that they made for the last 7 years will become nothing, because then it's reversing. The same to Taita Taveta, which is losing about 300 million, or Samburu, which is losing 500 million. The best way to go about this conversation is two ways. One, if the national government is willing to increase the allocation that goes to counties by, say, 10 to 15 billion, that way, even if you apply the new formula, they will not feel it. If you apply the new formula, the counties that are losing will not feel, because they will not need to cut any of their budget, because they are not going back. The other way is to try and hold the current, and that's the Sakaja's amendment, is to say up to 316 billion, counties should get what they were getting from last year. Anything above 316 billion, you can apply the formula, so that those who will get, who are gaining more through the formula, they gain more of the amount that is on top. But all these conversation, I am not saying that Sakaja's formula is perfect and the final and so forth. What I'm saying is that if we really apply our mind and avoid brickmanship and hubris and language that is divisive, and decide to sit down, all of us, we can find a variance of that formula that Sakaja is providing that will minimize the losses that the counties that are losing are going to face.
Senator, if you can hang on there, let me bring in Senator Cherargei now, who is of a contrary opinion. He believes the Senate committee's formula actually works perfectly in terms of what is needed for the country right now or for his county. Senator Cherargei, thank you for making time for us today. It's been rare to see you with a public opposing decision to Senator Murkomen. Many times we've seen you both speaking a similar language. But on this one today, even on the floor of Senate, you came on to almost interrupt what Senator Murkomen was saying. Senator Cherargei, your justification for why you are supporting the committee's formula tonight?
One, I want to clarify a wrong myth that if this formula of the Committee of Finance and Budget is going to be passed, the counties will lose in this financial year. This financial year of 2020-2021, counties will not lose because already the budget has begun. Secondly, is that under Article 217, as a Senate, we have an obligation after every 5 years to review a formula that will, the county revenue formula that is now called the third generation formula. You remember the last one was in 2016. The third issue, Waiga, is that Senate, you can't lie to Kenyans that for the 7 times the Senate has failed. You remember we have been forced on several occasions, even with the magnanimity of the Speaker, and even allowing us to adjourn on several occasions to go and caucus. Even as I agree, there could be room to still consult, to still come up with a solution to this stalemate. But there is no structured way of caucusing and ensuring all senators are rallied by within a specific agenda of passing this formula. And I want to say, if we have to promote the principality of equity, not equality, some counties definitely will have to lose. And my argument has been very simple. There is Article 204 on equalization fund. The only challenge we need to be facing is that we need to operationalize the equalization fund, which is an affirmative fund that will assist counties that are perceived to be marginalized, arid and semi-arid counties. And therefore, that will be able to cushion them. And therefore, the committee formula as proposed last week, and you know, we keep going back, and Kenyans have a good memory of this. You remember we have the amendment that was proposed by the majority whip, where he had proposed that the Senate can take a resolution and then freeze that resolution for the next 3 financial years so that counties that are expected to lose can get time to cure with that one did never happen. It was being rejected. It was being shut down. The same issue, as you have said, Senator Orengo, Senator Wetangula proposed an adjournment. It was also being rejected. And therefore, it is surprising. As a Senate, we are now promoting an issue of double standards. And I can assure you, you can take this to the bank. There will be no consensus. I am aware this thing is very emotive. Well, there will be no day that Senate will be able to agree based on this emotive issue of resource allocation. And therefore, the counties that are perceived to be losing, they are not losing. They are not losing. What I'm saying is very simple.
Sorry for interrupting you. So are you telling me that next week on a Tuesday like this, at a time like this, we still will be here discussing this impasse? Is that your sense?
Yeah, yes, I'm saying so, because if you have seen my colleague, my leader Murkomen has said that he agrees with Senator Sakaja's amendment, which is still on the floor of the House. It is still a matter that is still active and it is still being debated upon, and he's saying it is a perfect amendment that should amend the committee formula. Some of us are opposed to that formula because, for example, Nandi stands to gain around 1.4 billion, which will need assessment. And I agree. Let us not mislead Kenyans. In as much as we are saying money should be allocated based on population, there are also parameters that were considered by the Committee on Finance and Budget. So there is a wrong notion that this allocation has been based only on population. Moreover, it has not been based on population. It has also been based on land. It has also been based on poverty index, issues of health infrastructure, issues of population, among other factors that was recommended by Commission of Revenue Allocation. So this perception that we are creating that money was only allocated based on population is wrong, and we are misleading Kenyans. So this issue is that we are divided as a Senate, and I'm disappointed because we were elected to come and make a decision. And part of adjourning and going and caucusing It's not part of the Senate business, official Senate business committee, or Senate business that will make a resolution on the floor of the House. We can go and meet in hotels or wherever and agree and discuss, but that one does not mean it will translate to a consensus at the floor of the House. And I can assure you Kenyans are watching this. You can't tell me if...
Senator, sorry, and you're right, Kenyans are watching this even right now. We've been hearing a lot, and it's been reported in the media quite a bit, about what is happening behind the scenes. One, we are told of senators who clearly want more money for their counties. It will make them look good in the next election. We also hear of senators who want to be governors. They're trying to make a statement. We hear of intrigues around 2022 elections, BBI, etc. What sort of interests have played into a seventh round of an impasse on a day like today, Senator Cherargei?
I think the interest that has played out is the county interest that we have been provided under Article 96 of the Constitution. And we are very clear that we need, every senator must promote issues of county interest, of the interest that are. So I don't know when people perceive that it's about 2022 interest or other intrigues that are happening. What I know is what even Senator Murkomen has already said, that there have been caucuses before. This is not the first time we are looking for caucuses within Senate. I have not seen anybody else, I have not seen anybody else to coming on board to caucus on behalf of the senators. The caucuses that we have been doing has always been senators amongst themselves. So I can say the interests that are playing out are more of protection of devolution. And if you want to protect devolution, you must promote equity among counties.
Okay. Let me allow Senator Murkomen to also weigh in on this. Again, trying to understand, hearing a lot about behind-the-scenes movements. Today we had Senator Sakaja talking about being trailed, for example, feeling that his security was not quite up to par over the last couple of days as well. And of course, some of the motives behind what we saw today that led to this impasse. What is your view, Senator Murkomen?
I agree with Senator Cherargei that ideally the interest that should only be applied there is about the interests of the county. But I am not blind to the idea that other people could be having other political interests, some about political alliances, some about BBI, the way the majority whip talked about BBI the other day. So I didn't even know that BBI was an important issue on this debate until the back and forth between ODM and our friend and a few of our friends, including Kangata. There are those other auxiliary interests, but I can tell you that the overriding and the overwhelming interest that is inside there is about the devolution and the winning and the losing discussions about counties. I am glad Senator Cherargei has admitted on TV that this issue is not about population alone. It has landmass there. It has some weighted provisions about certain subject matters like agriculture, health, and so forth. Because you must have heard that there were many people who are talking about 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling, which is not in that formula. Because if that was to be the case, Elgeyo Marakwet will only get 2 billion shillings, and Nairobi County will get 30 billion. And these urban areas would get, certain billions of shillings. So it's not true that this formula reflects in any way the 1 man, 1 vote, 1 shilling. And I'm glad my colleague, Senator Cherargei, has demonstrated that. Number two, there has been also a propaganda that the discussion was about giving resources to a certain region of the country. That, again, is a lie. If you look at the propaganda that was talking about Mount Kenya is getting, its formula is to assist Mount Kenya and so forth, that has just been street propaganda, or what Cherargei usually calls WhatsApp discussions. Because the reality of the formula itself is that of the 22 counties that are benefiting, the top 22, Mount Kenya has only 2 counties inside there. So in reality, those are just extraneous discussions that are not beneficial. What I want to insist here is that, and disagree with my colleague Cherargei, is that it is possible to have everybody agree. And I've told Senator Cherargei in last term, for us who are in the Senate the last term, we agreed 47 out of 47. But it didn't just happen once. In fact, the negotiation were not 7 times. It was more than 7 times. But once the leaders came together and agreed, and I'm glad that there was no interference from the party bigwigs, We in the Senate were managed to go and sit together in Naivasha for 2 days. We hammered a deal led by Professor Kindiki then and Senator Wetangula, and both of them being majority and minority leadership, we were able to find a way that ultimately we agreed for 7. Senator Cherargei, for my few years of experience of politics, I disagree with you on one thing, that I am an eternal optimist. And if we never retain this idea of an optimism in our country, we will surrender and give up very fast. And one of the signs of giving up is to say, let's vote and see who loses and who gains. But you see, a nation cannot be built by conglomerating losers and winners. We must always find a win-win situation. And I want to remind Senator Cherargei, and I think he was with the Deputy President over last weekend, when he gave his views publicly and said that he's not a senator, but in his views, he said that he would like the Senate to find a way that there will be no loser or winner. We will be win-win. And I think in the spirit of
win-win solution, I believe.
Solution, yeah. And for a leader who is the deputy party leader of Jubilee and the deputy president of the Republic of Kenya, I think he speaks for all of us who are in Jubilee. He speaks also of the reasonable leaders in the country who still believe that you don't trample on other parts of the country by virtue of only that they may not have enough votes to pass something. And I like using biblical analogies that, you treat a nation by how they treat widows and orphans and marginalized and the people who are weak. We must demonstrate that. And I don't think, and I have really been talking to people who now work closely with the president and the majority leadership and so forth. And I'm still wondering whether really it is with the blessings of President Uhuru Kenyatta that we should have and vote in an environment that is so volatile that it makes a contradiction of his agenda that him and former Prime Minister want to bring Kenya together to a united country.
Senator Murkomen, I want to get a quick answer from you on this one before I go to Senator Cherargei. Now, we've seen a viral video. I believe it's some of the words by Murang'a Governor Wairia saying that if resource division will be based on land size, he will demand recognition of water to Nairobi as a Murang'a resource and has threatened to withhold the water. What are your views on some of the discussions we are now seeing online? Case in point, that one.
That sounds like the governor it's like saying the governor of Narok will withhold wild beasts from being seen by anybody, or the governor of Taita Taveta who is losing protecting elephants in Savo. The statement you've just made is very important, but it's a different situation. We have been grappling in the Senate with this idea as to resources that are located in particular parts of Kenya. How do the people of Elgeyo Marakwet benefit from Embobut Forest? How do people of Narok benefit from the game reserve? How do people of Taita Taveta benefit from Savo? How do people of Lamu benefit from the sea? So that conversation is not confined to Murang'a alone. It's not confined to Murang'a alone. It's about a discussion around natural resources in all over the country. And I was part of a committee that was headed by Senator Zani in last parliament. Then we drafted a bill which was called Resource Sharing Bill that was meant to provide a formula where natural resources exploited in particular county, a certain percentage must remain to benefit the people of that county, like the case of Lospa in Elgeyo Marakwet, or Cherargei will tell you gold mining in somewhere in Tintereda, I'm forgetting the right place, and so many of those issues so that they might actually benefit the local community. That is a different, separate discussion about natural resources and benefiting the counties where they are located.
I want to allow Senator Cherargei to respond to what you've said as well, even as I asked this, and this is coming in from Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, and he did ask this question again last week. There is a bill that's been in Senate since February 2020. The bill guarantees a release of funds to counties if an impasse like the one we have now goes on. And he's asking, isn't Senate failing Kenyans by not finalizing with a bill like this one in its entry? Could this help counties move forward even as Senate figures out or gets a consensus on the way forward as well? So, Senator Cherargei, I want you to tackle that even as you respond to what Senator Murkomen has said.
I think, honestly speaking, yesterday, I think the CS of the National Treasury and Planning and the Senate leadership did have a meeting, and they agreed, the National Treasury agreed to release around 29 to 30 billion to counties. And I think specifically, there is no provision of law or that prevents the money to be released to counties, even as this statement goes on. I know there are those amendments that Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah is referring to, and it is failure on part. So you can see that Senate, we have an obligation to fast-track some of these issues. And if we had fast-tracked that legislative proposal that came from the National Assembly, say that and this has been even the thinking of even Supreme Court when governors moved to court, and even we have a matter that Senator Murkomen did lead us, that is a matter in High Court, over this issue of division of revenue, among other laws that were signed into law without the Senate consent. And therefore, expressly describing, it does not prevent the National Treasury from releasing money to counties. I think Kenyans, we need to correct that. But of course, the legislative proposal, I agree, Senate should have moved on and fast-tracked. Secondly, I want to agree with Governor Wairia on the aspect that we need to ensure that the resource that the counties give out, they must get at least the percentage. And I know that the issue has been that fund that Senator Murkomen has proposed, that legislative, that if that legislative would have been pressed, there should have been a specific fund of 70, 30, 10. And you remember... But
Senator Cherargei, isn't such talk dangerous? Bearing in mind, we are hearing certain communities where people are saying that if certain people are within our county, etc., causing us to look like we have large numbers. And this, I was speaking to a leader yesterday who was saying that he's concerned about some of the talk he's hearing in his county as a result of this formula impasse. Don't you think that if such talk continues to gather steam, it could pose a danger to some, for example? It could cause some division?
Waiga, it is not dangerous. You have heard Senator Murkomen rightly put that they had worked on legislative proposal to ensure that there is a sharing of 70, 30, 10. And you remember even Turkana County residents the other day demonstrated. So the issue is, in as much as this resource must benefit the people at the lowest level. And therefore we can't keep, and that is why we are saying when you are allocate 70 to national government, allocate 20 to the county government and 10% to the community directly based on that. And I think it is very important that we agree on how we can proceed on that. And therefore, I want to demystify by saying it is not dangerous to have such discussion. We must have that discussion. The issue of resource will always be an emotive issue wherever you are or wherever it is an issue that will always go the way. But on the issue of this one, and I agree the parameters that we need to look, even as we look, for example, agriculture. Why would you, for example, give more money on agriculture parameter to Nairobi City County and leave out Trans Nzoia or Nandi or Uasin Gishu where the bread basket? So this conversation, even if today, Waiga, we were to agree in what Senator Murkomen is saying, for example, let's say in the parameter of agriculture, we allocate every county, like even counties that do not practice agriculture. I don't want to be specific. Let me use Nairobi City County, for example. Yet, for example, in Nandi and Uasin Gishu and Trans Nzoia, we need more money through agriculture on parameter of agriculture. So there is no way that we'll have equality among these counties. And that is the decision we must make. And I can tell you, the issue of resource allocation, it will be hard for us, even if we are eternal optimists, it will be hard for us to agree on a situation where all counties will be equal in terms of allocation based on the basis. And therefore, Waiga, I really sad for Kenyans because this thing we should have resolved long time ago. We should allow the process to be complete so that even Senate can concentrate on other legislative agenda that have been even asked by Mheshimiwa Kimani Ichung'wah, the Member of Parliament of Kikuyu, of saying that there is a lot of legislative pending before the Senate. And I think on this issue of revenue formula, we have had this conversation. We have exhausted all avenues. And I think it is the right time that we move on, we make a decision, we accept and move on and let Kenyans, because it's a constitutional obligation. So if you are telling us to run away from the Constitution and maybe use other means to achieve the same, then it doesn't make sense, because the constitutional obligation, Waiga, is that Kenyans expect us, and the Constitution expects us, as provided for by Article 203, 216 and 217 and Article 96 on the role of the Senate to perform our duty. So unless we want to procrastinate, we don't want to make a decision, as leaders we must be ready to make a decision, but that decision should be based on equity.
Gentlemen, I feel like we've had this discussion on this program for the last couple of weeks, somehow circumventing around the same issue. So I'm trying to look for a way forward. How do we get out of this? But before this, I've gotten a message. I'm not sure if it's from the governor of Murang'a County or from someone from Murang'a County, but they're asking this, and I'll ask you this, Senator Murkomen. You posed a question about Narok County collecting proceeds from animals that could cross over to another county. And someone is asking, if Narok County collects tourism revenue from the Masai Mara, why shouldn't Murang'a benefit from its water in the same way that Turkana insisted on benefiting from oil? And this seems to be a discussion that won't go away, Senator Murkomen.
I told you, all the natural resources that are found in various counties, we must find a working mechanism for collecting revenue. It's not about Murang'a alone. Elgeyo Marakwet gives Uasin Gishu County more than 50% of its water that is used in Eldoret and other parts of Uasin Gishu. And the discussion from my county has always been, why is the water from Chabara Dam not benefiting Elgeyo Marakwet, yet it is saving Uasin Gishu a lot of money? So that is a genuine discussion. And as I said, it is not on division of revenue. Like I said, we passed a law that went to National Assembly. It died last term. We probably need to revive that law again to look at natural resource benefit law, so that we see, and particularly one for water, because the conversation about water is very emotive. You know, at the moment, Ethiopia and Sudan and Egypt are competing over water. So water is a very emotive resource. We must have that conversation, but it will not be about Murang'a alone. There are counties in Taita Taveta providing water for all Mombasa region. You have Murang'a providing water to Nairobi. You have Kericho, some part of Kericho providing water to Nakuru. So that conversation will be holistic. You know my colleagues, Senator Uta and Senator Cheruiyot, were last week in Kericho discussing Koru Dam, which takes water from Kericho to take it to Kisumu County. So that conversation will be holistic. And I appreciate the person from Murang'a who was raising that issue. But let me go back to the conversation we had about. Yeah.
And I hope you are taking us forward. Remember at the beginning you said there are two ways we could move forward.
I have a suggestion.
Go ahead.
I have a solution. A few of us have already started a conversation. I have a suggested solution to the problem we have in the Senate. Nobody has a final answer. And, until all of us have a consensus, nobody has a final answer. We are already, Senator Kangata and Senator Sakaja and a few other senators are already working on a variation of his formula that brings those who are in the same camp with Senator Cherargei, who are benefiting on the other formula, to the conversation table, and also make sure that those who are losing will also be willing to lose something small and they sit in the same conversation table. So from tomorrow, you will see a suggested way forward being formulated. And unlike Senator Cherargei, I believe by Tuesday next week, this discussion about winning and losing will come to an end. There's only one request I have made. Murkomen now is a backbencher. I'm like Senator Cherargei. There was a time me and Cherargei would sit down and we agreed that as the chairman of JLAC, come with this position. I am the majority leader, do this and that. Now, me and him are ordinary backbenchers. I am requesting those who took over the reins of these offices we were holding to find a way of bringing people together. They are not the first people to hold those offices. They must find, leadership is about taking responsibility, and they must take responsibility for the challenges we are facing at the moment. Last thing, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah talked about the law that is there that we have not passed. I think as a person who has sat in the office of the majority leader, my prayers and best wishes is to Senator Pokisho and Senator Kangata as they maneuver legislative responsibilities of the Senate. It's not easy for them. They need our prayers, and I'm available for any consultation. And I believe that with the help of the rest of the senators, we can pass as many legislation that is remaining as possible. But to remind the country that there is no vacuum. Mm-hmm. There is no vacuum. The Supreme Court ruled less than a month ago that when we do not pass the county allocation of revenue bill and the division of revenue bill, and there is a delay, counties can continue receiving half of the allocation. Counties can continue receiving, half of the allocation they deserve.
Okay. Senator Murkomen, our time is almost up, so I need a 30-second response from you on this one before I get one from Senator Cherargei. In the past, on numerous occasions, you've talked about Senate being captured by external parties, being captured by party leaders, being captured by the executive. On this issue of the division of revenue, the Senate that you have observed over the last 7 tries, has that been a Senate that's been independent, or one that is captured, as you've so forcefully spoken of in previous interviews?
Waiga, sorry, there's some guy who keeps calling on my Skype. That's why it's blocking. But I'm trying to say, yeah, sorry, that's why you have a problem. I go off. The truth is that
briefly,
a Senate that doesn't have an interest of the rest of Kenya, and which does not have interested parties wanting to influence in one way or another, means that it is not a place of interest. But because it's a people's institution, you will find various interested parties of the Republic wanting to push a particular position. The thing is that the senators and the Senate leadership must be able to shield the House from being misused. There is nothing wrong for anyone coming to lobby the Senate or to have a petition brought to the Senate or to have an agenda, because political parties have agendas. That's why they have representatives in the House. But it's upon the Senate and the senators to rise above parochial interest and to ensure that those who are lobbying and those who bring agendas to the House are actually those who are interested who have the best interest of the country at heart.
How would you describe the scenario this time round? That's a very direct question to you. Have you seen that lobbying? Is it because you clearly in the past have spoken about a captured Senate?
Yeah. Well, this time round,
it's a yes or no question.
I am pleasantly surprised that the senators have not fallen into the capture by the external forces. But I can tell you, Waiga, the lobbying and the methods of that lobbying and the intimidation, blackmail. It is true Senator Sakaja had to go sleep in the Senate this morning. You saw the headline in the newspapers today. They were saying that Murkomen and Sakaja will be removed from Jubilee. Those are negotiating tactics and some of the blackmail that they were trying to apply to get their interest passed. So it is not easy, but I'm glad that senators on both sides stood for what they believe in. And I don't believe that even if my colleagues voted like Cherargei on the other side, I don't impute improper motive on his decision, just the same way he doesn't impute improper motive on mine. It's about ideological positions and views that each one of us has. But that we were lobbied on both sides, of course, definitely.
Okay. Senator Cherargei, do you have a response to anything Honorable Murkomen has said before I fire a last question at you?
I think what I can say is that, unfortunately, Senator Murkomen is too optimistic, and you can see clearly it's about Senator Kangata. And you can see the trajectory that they want to take us to. Because now we can't continue to work with this second generation formula. We have said we must proceed with third generation formula. I can assure you we tried last time. I can assure you, Wahiga, by next week, a time like this, we will have 47 formulas. Because myself also, I'll be intending to bring about formula to protect that Nanti continues to get 1.4 billion. And we continue with the committee report to amend so that the status quo is being maintained as per the committee report. So the issue of having caucusing, and I agree with Senator Murkomen, he was my majority leader, he still, and I used to be the chair jailer. We are now backbenchers. So Senator Murkomen is, unless a miracle happens, because the people in the House leadership have said they are not ready to go back in negotiating. They are the trainers, not the station. And therefore, I join Senator Murkomen in prayers and joining in his prayer that now that we are backbenchers together, the leadership of the House can listen. But as much as I know, and even you heard the leader of majority spoke today at the floor of the House, that they are no longer interested in buying time. The solution is, let us deal with this issue. Let us agree, and maybe the only thing I can agree with Senator Murkomen is that if there is a way of ensuring that we cushion counties that are likely to lose. By the way, we have been magnanimous enough, we have said in this financial year, no county will lose. And that is where we are. So I want to appeal to my brother, Senator Murkomen, that he has been a majority leader before. He's the one who started this process with the former chair, Mohamud. Let us be done with this. Let us proceed so that the counties can go on with their lives and be able to budget. And I can assure him, in this financial year no county will lose any money.
Senator Cherargei, as my last word, because our time really is up, what do you say to those who believe the potential of a county should be a key factor in what will influence the formula that Senate will finally agree upon? For example, we know of economists, the likes of David Lee, who talk about Central Province having exhausted all its land, but Mandera and Garissa have a lot of unutilized land, and that's why they need more money to exploit those resources, as possibly compared with Nandi County. How do you respond to those who have that view?
I think one of the key parameters that I've always espoused is a population-driven, because it is the people who need resources and services. I agree that they could be, they still land it, but not on part of Kenya, coastal part. But on this aspect, my biggest parameter that I'll be pushing for is a population-driven number, because it is the people who need services. For example, here in Nairobi, you can have Kibra or Mukuru Kwanjenga, where we have the urban poor. Why would you leave the people of Kibra and Mukuru Kwanjenga by not allocating more money, or Kiambu or Nandi, and go to some other counties that do not experience this population explosion? So another parameter that is key to me is to ensure we use the counties like breadbasket, like Nandi, Wasingishu, Trans Nzoia, from my brother Murkomen and Marakwet County, and other counties that are producing food for this country. The parameter of the agriculture should be very key. Because if that is the position that we need to take, then my two take-home will be the population-driven, and I hope Senator Murkomen is taking notes on behalf of the other group of senators that were wearing a Kenyan tie today, that he should be taking notes that they need for me to come to negotiating table. One is population-driven. Number two is on the issue of agriculture. Number three in the issue of, in terms of issues of development in terms of health infrastructure, the issues of poverty index, and then land can come at the tail end. Land can be discussed as an AOB, but on this one, I am with the population-driven agenda of making sure that we allocate money more to even Nairobi City County, as opposed to other counties. Finally, Wahiga, you have to note, as I say this, we are going to work hard. And as a backbencher, just like Murkomen, we will implore the House leadership from the minority and majority side to come up together, and even the National Assembly, to ensure we operationalize equalization fund. That equalization fund will address the losing counties, the marginalized counties, and arid and semi-arid counties. So at the end of the day, it will be a win-win situation. But on Tuesday next week, we need to pass this formula of the committee, go on with the lives and plan, and then agree on how we can push other counties after we are done and dusted with the formula, the third generation formula as proposed by the Committee of Budget and Finance. And I agree that there are some issues of lobbying, of course. We lobby among ourselves as senators. Also, I agree with Murkomen that when the people have interest and they benefit Kenyans, then we can always have that engagement. And I think, and respectfully saying so, senators are free to take their position. And we have seen, the other day we were 22 senators who are for the Senator Kangata's amendment. Okay. Murkomen was leading the other faction of 25 senators. So I think that the Senate is as independent as much as possible based on ideology.
I think, Senator Cherargei, the only challenge is when the lobbying is, according to the allegations, linked with possible payment for those who choose to go a particular way. I hope none of that happened this time around.
No, I am not aware of any, but what I can say is that the positions that are being held, the reason me personally am passionate about this revenue formula is because
I just wanted you to leave.
Of 1.4 billion. The reason Senator
fair enough.
My friend Stewart Matsayo is passionate about this issue is because Kilifi is losing. And I think that is when you use passionometer, you can tell where the passion of somebody is. Yes. If you are gaining, you are pushing for this formula to pass. If you are losing, you want the status quo to be
Senator,
and I know those are the only yardsticks that are there.
Senator,
I mean, that was not a question, but you've tackled it anyway.
Waiga,
in 30 seconds, Honorable Murkomen, we do need to wind up. Go ahead.
I totally agree with Professor D, with other Kenyans who are arguing that Turkana, Wajir, Marsabit, Tana River have not exploited their potential. It even includes West Pokot, Elgeyo Marakwet, those areas that are called arid and semi-arid. If you look at the amount of irrigation that is taking place in Hola and Kulalu, Galana Bulalu, you can see the potential that is in those areas that were called low potential. Number two, the reason why we have urban poor and we have a huge and dense population in Nairobi in places in slums is because they are coming to look for opportunities in Nairobi. Devolution is supposed to decongest this Nairobi and other urban areas and create new cities, like the way we have built a city in Isiolo, which is soon going to be in the corridor of the Lamu Port Lapsset project. So the potential that is there in these areas that were initially called low potential areas and which were left out by sessional paper number 10 of 1965, Kenya, the future of Kenya is in the arid and semi-arid area. Just look at the map and look at the size of land that these areas occupy. So the point of us clinging to this idea that Nairobi must remain Nairobi forever, Mombasa remains Mombasa forever, we are now building Lamu Port, we are moving to other areas. Our country must be so developed that it will be, any of us will be willing and happy to go and live in Garissa or in Marsabit or in Mandera or in Turkana or Loyangalani or any other parts of this country.
Thank you so much. We'll take that as your parting shot to both of you. Thank you so much for your time. I never thought I'd have a discussion with Senator Murkomen and Senator Cherargei and they'd be on opposing sides. But they both say they have valid reasons why they believe in what they believe in. And they both believe, optimistic, that hopefully next week, Tuesday, we won't have the same discussion we're having today, but a different one, because Senate will have found some way forward on this matter. A lot of consensus, a lot of caucusing, a lot of discussions clearly to be had over the next couple of days. Senator Murkomen, thank you so much for your time. And Senator Cherargei, I know it's been a busy day. I'll allow you gents to go and rest even as we wrap up Newsnight. And to all our viewers, thank you so much for taking time to text in or to tweet. The SMS line has been 22422. The hashtag Newsnight, of course, the home edition. And thank you so much for all the feedback. And on behalf of a whole big team that makes this production possible, thank you so much for having tuned in. Our sign language interpreter today has been Yulan Zale. Have a good night wherever you're watching this program from, even as we all await a way forward from Senate on the money to the counties, whatever county you're watching this broadcast from. Have a good night. Have a safe night. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.